Bloodborne is the 2015 PlayStation exclusive from notorious development team From Software, led by the creative mastermind of a director Hidetaka Miyazaki, the same studio and director of the infamous Dark Souls series, whose unique blend of challenging gameplay, numerous unique locations, and colossal bosses undoubtedly left those with the patience and mental fortitude to complete them thoroughly fulfilled. However, Bloodborne isn't a simple reskin of its predecessors, not by a long shot. It's a sprawling gothic nightmare with an equal distribution of beautiful secrets and unsettling horrors waiting around each of its foggy cobblestone corners and labyrinthine alleyways. An expertly crafted vision of one outsider's descent into a deeply disturbed society in the midst of a downfall with cosmic repercussions. The game offers a unique and compelling story presented almost like a myth in an old and weathered storybook. One in which the bits of torn paper and smudged ink serve only to enhance the mystique of the tale and allow the consumer's imagination to become an integral element in filling in the narrative blanks. Miyazaki himself, saying his trademark brand of world-building is scattered narrative development, evolved from his own childhood fascination with reading challenging books in which his incomplete vocabulary restricted his comprehension. Filling in those gaps with his own imagination connected him to the story even more in turn. As used in the Dark Souls series, I found the strategy is more of a curtain to hide the relatively lackluster fantasy tale behind it. In Bloodborne, however, the lack of clear information increases the mystique and horror central to the game's story. As the players work their way through the city of Gehrman and its surrounding lands, the story turns from gothic beast hunt into a Lovecraftian masterpiece centered around fallen underground societies, the quest for eldritch knowledge, and dimension-hopping thrills. Supported by a number of tragic side quests and optional areas, the story became much more interesting to me than any previous Miyazaki venture, and even provoked me into exploring every nook and cranny of the world for the smallest puzzle pieces of lore to help complete the final product forming in my own mind. So let's talk about the world. As an outsider to Gehrman, our hunter is experiencing the scenic vistas and moonlit alleys of the world for the first time just as we the players are, and it's a beautiful world. Haunting and inhabited by the most goosebump-inducing creatures, but beautiful all the same. The scenery shifts effortlessly from the grand Gothic architecture of central Gehrman to the dirt and grime of the Forbidden Woods, crumbling hellscapes and forsaken universities, and everything else in between. More amazing than these scenic locales on their own is the amazing connections and shortcuts between them that you unlock through progress. They make you sit back and marvel at the amount of thought that went into crafting not just a simple set of spaces to throw NPCs and enemies into, but a fully living and connected world. On top of that, add the thousands of little scenery flavor items present in the environment, like the gorgeous Bernini-esque sculptures and veiled weeping figures in the cathedral ward, or the coffins, carriages, and wrought iron fences that bring central Gehrman to life. These prevent the space from becoming nothing more than a bland series of copy-pasted avenues, like so many modern games are. The environment engages the audience equally as much as the gameplay, and that is a marvel in itself. And oh, before I forget it, as if there were even a remote possibility, let me just say that the soundtrack to this game is one of the most absolutely stunning, grandiose, and exquisitely crafted OSTs I've ever heard, and likely ever will. Like the opus of some twisted vampire orchestra meant to be blasted on loudspeakers throughout Gehrman, it consumes you and builds the atmosphere into otherworldly levels of enjoyment, while continuously shifting from spine-tingling horror anthem to cathedral-filling angelic opera. All of these elements and more make the world of Bloodborne into an unrivaled media landscape. Despite all this, however, the story and world would mean absolutely nothing without gameplay, and at this point in the video, I don't believe it'll come as any surprise what I have to say on that front. On all fronts, Bloodborne's gameplay feels like an improvement on the relatively clunky and slow feel of the Dark Souls series. The movement is fast, fun, and responsive, ditching the notion of shields and opting to perfect the trademark rolls and backsteps to gain iframes, which not only increases the threat of every encounter, but also speeds up the fights. Bloodborne keeps the best of the Dark Souls mechanics like bonfires in the form of lanterns here, as well as the process of gaining souls, but in this case blood echoes. However, where the game shines is in the brand new additions to the gameplay. Blood vials are the healing mechanic of the game, similar to the Estus of the Souls games, but instead of replenishing upon a rest, they are finite and must be looted off enemies or bought instead. This makes the vital lack of healing a question of cost-benefit analysis. Another new mechanic supplements the scary dilemma. Termed the rally mechanic, after being hit the player can counter-attack the enemy, with each successive hit restoring a portion of the lost health. It's brilliant, and further rewards risky plays and fast action. Lastly, I want to mention the changes to parrying and visceral attacks. In Bloodborne, you stagger and parry enemies not with a shield, but with your gun. The timing feels even more rewarding for a successful parry, and opens up the enemy to high damage visceral attack. Plus, it's just plain badass. The arsenal of trick weapons here can all be transformed into different form, which can each increase the range, power, or speed, all while offering new animations and combo potential. The enemies are varied, both in unique appearance and attack pattern, and fit equally well into their location in the game. And I would be absolutely torn to shreds if I didn't mention the bosses in this game. They range from the disgusting amorphous behemoths, like the one reborn, to the graceful and stalking Vicar Amelia. Each boss comes with a great accompanying score and arena to inhabit. Lending themselves to be examined and have their movesets broken down, the struggle to bring one down never felt like I was being unfairly punished, but rather like I was being smacked around until I was smart enough to recognize my own mistakes. All elements here combine to form an unforgettable experience that is anything but monotonous. Miyazaki outdid himself on this project, and the team behind him deserves all the accolades this game has already received and more. However, this game's not perfect as many reviewers have reported in the past. It's home to a handful of areas that feel super uninspired compared to their counterparts, such as the monochromatic and dull Nightmare Frontier, as well as a handful of very disappointing bosses that feel like nothing more than minor roadblocks meant to round out the cast of foes, including the trivial Witch of Hemwick and the tedious rat maze that is the Mikolosh fight. Despite these several setbacks, this game left me in awe of the sheer scale of the world on display, the enjoyable enemies and comrades which inhabit it, and the incomparable joy felt upon completing it.